Huh? Mike Gill not back. Let's see when Mike returns to the show. But we got Chris Franklin, so here he is. A little bit late. That happens. We got no sleep. Where are you in the sleep meter, Chris Franklin?
I
I
went to
was
bed
taking a nap.
around.
I just took a quick nap.
You're a good man, but it was like 4:30. I finally went to sleep. It was around
Yeah.
there where I finally
All
got in
right.
there.
I
Right
think I
there.
beat you by 15 minutes. I think it was
Nice.
about 4:15.
Oh,
Yeah.
what was it like on the other side? I'm almost trying to catch up. I'm like, this is kicking my ass. Right now,
Long,
but this is work.
long. Boy, I missed the days of Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday afternoon. But
I
that
got a text message at 11:38 from Brett. Like, I was like, wait, what? They're doing this now? Like,
Oh
yeah.
you
yeah.
couldn't wait till tomorrow? Couldn't
No.
you do this in the morning? Like, I
No.
mean, holy mackerel. But I
And
did not
Howie
stay
was
up for
after
any of it.
that, by the way. Well, I
Yeah,
don't
no,
yeah.
I did not stay for up for that. I kudos to you two for doing the heavy lifting there. But well, I'm sorry that I missed the first 10 seconds of that return there. But I was outside on my porch, rocking in the rocking chair, enjoying the beautiful day down the shore here. But
It's freezing out. It's freezing.
hey,
You gotta wait till it warms up.
I have rocking chairs on my porch, and I'm going to utilize them.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Good move.
Like,
Good move. That's a power
um,
move. It's like, you know what? That's good. You gotta love that Jersey Shore.
Yeah, I'm rocking and yearning to know Chris Franklin's take on last night. You're at 22. I would imagine, Chris, there's no scenario in any of our minds, the people watching, us having this conversation, that at 22, they're going to have a choice between Terrion Arnold and Quinyon Mitchell. So when they have the choice between the two, in your mind, break down how they end up landing on Mitchell over Arnold.
Well, first off, I think they should just send a gift basket to the Atlanta Falcons for going with a quarterback instead of going
oh my
defense, which they need
Lord.
to, because I think that's the way that really started to set things up for them. Because I just knew they were going to take, oh, they're going to take Byron, they're going to take an edge rusher or a defensive tackle, what have you, just something to fix that. So when it came down to those, I'm like, okay, you know what? And usually I thought that I had Mitchell being the better guy ahead of Terry Arnold, even going through. But I thought they were never going to be there at 20. Never. It can't happen.
No.
14 picks later, like, all right, maybe it does. So I think when it came down to it, I think he had to go with the gut and the long term. Like, I think that Mitchell has the higher ceiling than Arnold when it comes to that. I think, like, I look at the way that, granted, I know it's the MAC. You got MACtion and everything, those Tuesday, Wednesday games. But when you
Those
look at the way
weird,
his
yeah,
ability,
the Thursday
yeah,
night games, yeah.
I mean, I'm joking here, but as many Monday night games the Eagles had last year, maybe he'll be ready to prepare for this one too. But I look at the way is able to dislodge the ball from wide receivers as well too. His athletic ability, his speed, the 4.33. I look at all those aspects, and I look at the Eagles' new defensive backs coach, and look at how he develops players. And I'm like, you know what? With a guy with a little bit higher ceiling, I think Arnold's going to think he's going to be a really good player. With a guy with just a little bit more of an upside in Mitchell, I'll bet on that and to see that he develops into a true number one cornerback for the future for his team.
Nick's as thick as thieves with the Toledo coaching staff. How much do you think that played into it from the perspective of, and I mentioned it, Paul Domowitz was on in hour one, and I said, you know how these when you're at a program like Toledo and you get a big time prospect, you want to pump them up because you want to recruit off that prospect and say, look what we did for Quinyon Mitchell. So you get all the other teams get all the glowing reviews, and he's a great prospect anyway. But Nick gets the real deal because his roommate is the head coach, one of his best friends at Toledo. Larry Karras's kid is the defensive coordinator at Toledo. I didn't put as much stock in that pre-draft as I should have, even though I picked Mitchell to be the pick. Now I think, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he trusts those guys.
I was talking about broke over my B partner there, and I really sat there when they entered 20, like, and I'm mad. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like, it had that aha moment that clicked when that pick made. I think it does help a lot. No, wrong. I think I think the Eagles have a really good relationship when it comes to Alabama and Nick Saban. So over since they picked Devonta Smith, but having the guy that back and forth, like, I'd be surprised if he was going last year going, hey, I got this kid that's going to be really good next year. You should keep an eye on him. Hey, look, he can really do this. And then we hear Alabama talking about Nick Saban last night talking about he was trying to get him to
Yeah,
transfer, all that stuff,
yeah.
which, by the way, should be looked into a little bit more. But that's a whole other story. But
Well,
you
it's
look
fair
into
game now. Everybody moves. I think it's by the way, I think that's a check mark in his category, Chris, in the fact that he wanted to stick it out at Toledo because he had a lot of respect for Jason Candle, giving him a chance. And he stayed loyal to him. I think that's a positive. He could have went
especially
to Alabama and got NIL money and
Well,
been a
and
starter
listen, I
with the
mean, a lot of
SEC.
people are questioning, the talent that he faced in the MAC. I mean, a lot of speculation leading up to this was, hey, he went into some of the, college all-star games and said, hey, give me the best of the best here. Give me the Ohio State guys. Give me the so, and excelled in those moments as well. Small sample size, but, a lot of times we get so concerned about these MAC guys or the small school guys. I mean, you talk about a Mac guy, Khalil Mack, Buffalo. He came in and was a game wrecker. I mean, if you could play, you could play. So I think the Eagles looked at the talent. But, John, I think you're right. It definitely makes you feel, I guess, more confident that there's a hard process. You never know who's giving you the right information. You would hope that Sirianni's buddy's going to say, hey, man, this guy ain't cut out for the league. Don't do it. And I know what you're saying. But you wouldn't throw your friend over the boat like that, would you? You wouldn't tell him to take the guy if you thought he couldn't play.
you'd hope not. You better not. If not, so all
Yeah.
of a
Well,
sudden
then
when
you're
it comes,
not friends. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Then you're
Christmas
no
time comes
longer
around.
friends.
So,
But yeah, so if you can get any little, like you said, John, if you can get any small advantage to get information from that level of a confidant, which wouldn't be a confidant at this point, but it would certainly make you feel more comfortable than, as you said, here's a coach just trying to pump up his player because he wants his school to get a higher profile. Someone would end up taking the kid at some point. It's not like he
Yeah. And
wouldn't
then,
be have
by the
been
way, I'm
drafted.
not good. That's what every college coach does. They want their kids to be successful because they want to recruit off those kids. Now,
Sure.
it's a lot easier to do at Alabama when you got 50 of them every year. But, for Toledo, it's like a big deal to get a first round pick. So
Absolutely.
you're going to spin that in the most positive fashion imaginable for every team in the NFL. And the 31 other teams were getting that vision when it came to Quinyon Mitchell. I think the Eagles were getting the completely unfiltered version, which is
Right.
probably all good, but that I'm saying they could trust it. And the other teams, maybe they're like, they know how it works. Or am I making too much of that, Chris?
no, I think it really does, and I think when you also look at the level of competition, I think it still can supersede that. I mean, I still remember back in the Boca Raton Bowl. I want to say it was like 2016, 2017 when I was covering Temple. See this guy just like tearing them up, and you're like, "Well, this guy's actually pretty good." I mean, Temple's defense was decent. Wound up being Kareem Hunt. So you never, and when they're playing
Yeah.
Toledo, so
Yeah.
you never know. Like it'll be times like guys that stand out. You know they're going to stand out. If you could have good talent, you have good talent, and he has a lot of that natural talent. And when you look at it, it's not just like, oh well, he's dominant. It really truly translates
Yeah. I
to
mean,
to this NFL level.
I was talking yesterday about, and people are like, "Oh, Mac." Freaking Dallas got to play at South Dakota State. I mean, there's players you find everywhere. Um, Division II players. So many big time. There's people in the Hall of Fame. I covered John Randall went to Texas A&I. Chris Franklin.
Wow.
You never scout the helmet. You scout the player. Now it becomes more difficult to make that transition when they don't have, Alabama guys are playing great competition. So it's a little bit easier, but to dismiss somebody because they're not in a Power 5 conference, every NFL roster is dotted with guys from small schools, at least a few, or smaller schools or non-Power 5 schools, however you want to look at it. I'm surprised people are like Toledo. Toledo's not bad. It's a decent pro. You bring up Kareem Hunt. It's a good player. They've had good players come out of that program. I'm
Hey,
surprised
you bring up the guy that, and Chris, I want to get your take on this. that Mitchell is likely going to replace James Bradberry. Went to what, Samford? I mean, and you would say, well, he was an all-pro player 2 years ago. So James Bradberry, another guy, not a very well-known college career. But what is James Bradberry's future now, Chris? Is he the starter at camp and Mitchell holds the proverbial clipboard and learns? Or are the Eagles going to say, thank you for your service, and we are going to be moving on from this arrangement?
I think heading into these next few phases of OTAs and mandatory minicamp, I think he is going to be a starter. I think it's going to be how he initially looks in that first week in that new system, and if it looks like he has that bounce back, how he's doing that. I think when everything's said and done, when we get to training camp in the end, I truly think that James Bradberry is going to be a starter. I know a lot of people don't want to hear. It's like, oh, why is he still going to be team on the cut him?
I'd love to see that, by the way. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'm one of the few who wouldn't mind. I've been saying for a while, I think James, if they give him the opportunity, he'll have a bounce back season with Vic Fangio, I think. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to start Quinyon Mitchell out slowly, but boy, Chris, the NFL's changed. You almost have to get first-round picks on the field. You see what happened with Nolan Smith. I mean, he was the 30th pick, and people are like, he's a bust. I mean,
yeah,
there's so much pressure to get those guys on the field.
Yeah, I think you still can get them on the field. I'm not just talking about, get them on kickoff coverage team and get them on this one. No, I think you can get them on legit, like dime packages. I at this point with this pick, I'd probably say move Isaiah Rodgers into the slot, have him in the competition with Devontae Maddox, have Mitchell, who I think is going to be, who already is probably their fourth, fifth best corner now on this roster. Have him play on the outside dime. Maybe move Bradberry outside and inside again, like he did sometimes in the slot.
Ooh,
maybe
I don't want to see that.
Maybe do that, but they have a lot of options they can play with, and a lot of times in this defense now, and you hear it more and more around the league, it's become positionless in the terms of maybe you have somebody, especially with that zone, like for three, you got the same responsibilities as a safety would. Like if you go, especially with some parts, you're going back. So I think it's one of the things where you see a lot of that. I look at guys like, maybe, and it's sort of similar when you look at Denver Broncos back from a couple of years ago, where they start trading some of these guys away. Like you start trying to target. Maybe you get not so much for this draft that we're in right now, but maybe for next year. Do you start trading away, seeing the deals for like 6th and 7th round picks because you're going to cut a guy, or did you see a player for player, or like a lower level roster player for player that you need to fill a need at that you can get as well too. So I look at those the bottom half or a guy you're going to get rid of and seeing that one too. But I think all in all, I think we're going to see it. Bradberry's here to stay for next year.
That's interesting. So if Bradberry's here, you got a very crowded room. I mean, you've got a bunch of guys. We're forgetting Vontae Maddox. If he could stay healthy, I mean, that's a guy that the Eagles have been.
And don't forget Isaiah Rodgers.
He's been on the field. Isaiah Rodgers, those two guys, Slay, Bradberry. You just drafted a guy, and then there's the batch of stew of the other guys who all seemed to get reps last year. Joe, Eli Ricks, obviously Ringo. There's other guy, Mekhi Gardner. I mean, they signed. I keep forgetting the guy's name because I was on vacation when they
Tyler
signed
Hall.
Tyler Hall. They've got
13 quarterbacks right now.
They've got 10 guys. There's 10 guys in that room, and possibly more after today and Saturday.
Yeah,
but
nobody talks about Zach McPherson. I mean, Zach is going to be a big part.
There's another guy who they actually drafted in what was that, the 4th round?
Fourth round. Yeah.
So that's a very crowded room, Chris. I mean, it looks like they're going to have a lot of competition at that spot.
Yeah, that's one reason I wanted to ask yesterday if they're thinking about converting somebody else to a safety potentially too, because like there's some talent that you have there. It's like it's actually gonna be one of the fun things to watch. Normally you'd say like, okay, you want to see wide receivers going at it. Like that's always the fun part when it comes to competition. When it comes to this one, when you look at the cornerback, that's gonna be fun. I can't wait to see these one-on-ones. I know they're joint practices, but I actually can't wait to see them coming up because you get to actually truly see, like, you're more focused now on the cornerbacks to see what these guys can do. It's going to be some tough decisions there. I mean, the Max, like, I know he released him earlier on, but maybe is he going to be more times as safety, which we know you've seen him play safety sometimes. You're going to move him back there to try to get more reps. If you maximize what you have there too.
Back to safety.
Yeah. So it's so many different options you can do with this defense, and I mean, They say it's they have all these cornerbacks up. Good luck trying to find the right. Good luck trying to find the right combination, especially down to depth. There should be. They're a lot better now, I think, than what we saw at the end of the season with the way everything turned out to be with under Matt Patricia, because that was oof. It's a lot
Man,
better, I think.
that was not good.
Well,
By
I
the way,
think
just
John
but
yesterday,
yeah. Go
John,
ahead, man.
yesterday when we had Colin Thompson on, who played in Chicago with Fangio, he didn't play defense, but he said the one takeaway is that there will only be one voice in that defensive room. Not like, what about this? What about this? How about that? What about that? No, one guy, and this will be the way it is, and then how much that might tighten up and
Yeah.
clean up.
And
This
remember
defense.
Kevin Byard, that was a big thing when Kevin's like, yeah, we're trying to throw out our own ideas for that became that was overblown, but still, yeah, you're not going to do that with Vic Fangio. I'm pretty comfortable with that. Just buttoning up Toledo, by the way. They have a great website, by the way. Good job, Toledo. Jason Candle has coached 29 NFL players, 27 of them from Toledo. 27 NFL players from Toledo that he's coached. So, yeah, it's not a run of the mill. It's not Alabama, but it's not the worst college in the world either. Day 2, Chris. I think a lot of us thought the Eagles would
Oh, it's
probably
the
enter
first
day 2.
Toledo Rocket taken in the first round since 1993.
Yeah. Well, for a lot
That's
of
a
NFL players, a lot of
that's
NFL
that's
players.
some
That's good
Toledo.
Toledo Rocket knowledge. Good Toledo. Who was it? Do you know who it was?
Yes, it was a gentleman by the name of Dan Williams.
Dan Williams. All right. That's good Rocket knowledge.
If the spin doctors were around that time, like if you're going back to spin doctors, it might be a little oof, but still, it works from that one.
Day 2, Chris Franklin. I think a lot of us thought the Eagles wouldn't have 50 and 53. They probably used one of them to move up. They didn't have to. They have 50 and 53. You got some eyes, you got some names you're keeping an eye on for the Eagles. Or will they trade up? You know how this works. Always they did it last year on day 3 with Kaylee Ringo and said, hey, Ringo's still there. Let's go up and get him at the top of the 4th round. They had went up to the 2nd or 3rd pick in the 4th round. What they going to do that? Howie looks at it and says, you know what? So-and-so's there. Maybe I'll package him and try to go up.
I think it's one of those things where I look at it more like an elastic band, where you just basically at 50-53, you do go in 2 directions with both picks. I really, really like Edrin Cooper. I think he can be the type of guy that you can really have
A1 starter here, I think.
I had a AFC scout told me he's the most disruptive player at that position. He thinks in his draft, and I look at the way he does this. I'd throw in, and I know you don't. It'd be a long time between the second, third, but that's what I'll tell you what the second part is. I'd trade up. I don't care if it's the 4th pick, the 4th rounder, or 2 of the 5th rounders, and package that with the second. Move up to take him. I think he's that good that you should be able to do that. With 53, I'm trading back, trying to recoup a couple of those picks, see if there's any takers there, maybe get that 4th or a 3rd back if there's somebody's really looking for somebody. In the Houston Christian Alex Hunt, I really like the way some of the characteristics he has. I really think that when you look at the fact that you only have Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff under contract beyond this year, when you're looking at guys that traits you want to have that quickness off the edge, is he still green? Yeah, he's very, very green, but this is why you really need to rely on Jeremiah Washburn to develop this guy and do this, because I think he really could be a really good pass rusher in this
I
league.
see. He was the kind of guy I was hoping that would drop to day 3, early day 3. You think he's going to go pretty?
I think he's going to go, especially with I think everybody's this. I think this might be an overcorrection round with all those teams that went offense early. I think you see a run on like people trying to go defense
That's a
now.
good point. That's a good
And
point.
then we see all that when it comes to the edge rushers and everything else. Corners and edge rushers are going to fly off, and Cooper, maybe Peyton Wilson, maybe in that, but their medical stuff on him is
Now,
kind of.
there's so many. Even when you look today, we know how many good offensive linemen went in the 1st round. There's still so many left. It's unbelievable.
It really
and they
is.
have interior guys. You know, the Eagles don't want to take an interior guy in the 1st round for obvious reasons. But now you're in the 2nd round, and you got BB and Zach Brazier and Jackson Powers Johnson. I mean, eh,
You know what? Let it roll down. I think it's just going to be a domino effect. I still think there's going to be guys when we look in the fifth round. You're like offensive lineman, like wise. You're like, you're still there. It is. I think there's a lot, like especially with the offensive line. If you're looking for a right guard, or if that's what you're really worried about coming into this as one of the needs left. I know you said everybody talking about the tackle. I know I was still too. I thought they were going to take tackle first round. That's the way I really did. But once all the good guys went, you had to do that.
by the way, that BYU tackle's still out there. I thought he might be a potential late first round pick. I don't want to butcher his name, but
Well, I don't like. Good luck you got that. I can't. I'm going to mess it
yeah.
up.
Yeah, there are so many good. Patrick Paul is out there. Roger Rosengarten, who the Eagles had in for a top 30 visit.
Which
Dallas Goddard's guy from South Dakota State, Mason McCormick, is a potential day 2 pick.
There were some prominent mock drafts that had Patrick Paul go into Philadelphia at 22 at one point.
Yeah,
early in this process. Yeah. So yeah, there's a ton of talent there, but there's also a ton of talent, Chris, like you mentioned at the top. Like you would trade up to go get Edge Cooper. I like Colston actually. I think he would be awesome here. But yeah, a couple guys that might be lingering in that upper 30 area that the Eagles, they didn't trade yesterday, but could they get a little itchy trigger finger to do it today?
I think Howie was pacing back and forth. Like it's almost like he needed to fix. Like, you know what? I need to make a move. I need to go. Come on, somebody make a move. I think we see him. I think we see a move, maybe a couple moves in this one too, to satisfy his fix on that one too. So I think we'll see something. I think we really will see a trade coming down.
So outside of Cooper, are there guys that are like at the top of that draft board in the second round that you're like, I could see that guy getting them trading up for him or him, of the top prospects that are out there?
Well, John mentioned Rosengarten, and that's what we really think, because I thought it was a one moment during the combine. When I was watching, I thought I was really thinking, because when Stout was running that one, the drill, I forget what it was, basically checking the lateral movement and out when the pass blocking, he just said, come on, man. But then when Rosengarten came out, all right, Roger, let's go. Like, wait, Stout call. And maybe I'm looking way too much into it, but like Stout uses first, like, wait, he's calling right man, but Roger, come on, let's go. Maybe he really likes this guy. He looked at him a little bit more and chat. So that's the kind of thing. Like, I wonder if he's going.
And he's a natural right tackle, so he's the guy who would be, heir apparent.
How we need to get this on right now? Like, see, I can hear it in that accent, the Brooklyn accent. Like, how you need to get this guy? I know what I'm talking about. This is the guy we need. I just hear him saying that in that war room. So maybe that's.
I like that Howie story about Jeff Stoutman though, where he said, Stout will like a guy and he'll say, you got to see this guy. And Howie go, yeah, he's going to be a top 10 pick, Stout. Yeah, we've seen him. That's how focused he is. He's not paying attention to anything else, but just how good the particular prospect is. But yeah, I mean, to me, you got to get Chip Stoutland something. And anytime you talk about the first 2 days of the draft, if the Eagles don't come out with an offensive lineman or a defensive front player, that's strange. That's a curveball. So Marshawn Nealon's another guy who's out there as an edge rusher. Offensive line, edge rusher. I could see both.
Why not go Javon Bullard's another guy too? He might probably go early, but I like him, the safety out of Georgia. I really like his game too, and
that's where I'll end it with the knuckleball at C Franklin News. Make sure you follow Chris. I hope you get a nap before I see you later. But
I will.
There's a lot of work, work to do. NJ.com. Read them there. Wide receiver. They just paid $84 million guaranteed to AJ Brown. They just paid Devontae Smith, but they still need a third receiver. You want an upgrade over Paris Campbell. Is that a curveball in the mix?
I think that would be a big curveball on the first on today. I think they really, if they got a wide receiver, hell, even a tight end, I think they got either one of those two positions, and we hear that name, and we're like, what the heck is going on? Like, you guys just really want to just outscore, like truly outscore by say defense. All right, cool. Let's make a stop or two sometime, and then you go that one. I think I'm looking more towards day 3, maybe with one of those 5th-round picks. I mean, Luke McCaffrey, I mean, just for not only just for the bloodlines itself, but for his
Yeah.
ability to read the coverage as a former quarterback in there. I think there's some
They
intriguing
never
stuff
get
for
the
that
good
too.
brother. They never get the good.
That's just
Nothing
Philly in
against
general.
Luke. Nothing against. Yeah, nothing against
Well,
Luke. But
there's been a lot of going off the reservation for the Eagles. They signed a running back. They gave 2 receivers big-time contracts. They drafted a corner in the 1st round. So the curveball has to be coming. There has to be. They're going to draft a linebacker. Survey says linebacker. That's one of the 2 picks here because everything has been so unconventional so far this offseason. But I want to get your quick thoughts, Chris, on the A.J. Brown deal. It dropped right before the draft started. You know, A.J. is always an interesting cat. The social media stuff, people love to speculate that. They signed Smith, so then the speculation continued. But they get that deal locked up. What'd you think of the timing and the deal A.J. Brown gets? He'll be here for a long time with Devontae.
Truth be told, I thought when the signing came down, I was like, "Oh, what's coming down? What's going to happen? Why is this a distraction coming on? Is they going to draft somebody else? What that's going to be rates like? Why is this going?" But overall, it's well deserved for him. I look at the way that his impact that he has on his overall offense. When you look at the gravity he brings on the field and the attention that he draws to open things up for Smith, and I never bought into the whole thing of, well, they're signing Smith, so Brown's going to leave. Like, and the one thing getting to see AJ a lot over his last 2 years is like basically whatever he says is on his mind. So when he said
yeah,
initially
very
he wanted
honest.
to stay here, I took it as a thing. And the whole Tom Brady picture thing and everything else like, oh look, he's going to go, he's going to trade them, they're going to get 3rd round. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How is that? Like that's the thing. But I think overall, when you look at his production, it's well worth it. You have now Devontae Smith and AJ Brown for the foreseeable
Best
future.
pure football player on the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown. Been saying it for and you see, by the way, when he's not, if you think about the Eagles in 2021 versus the Eagles in 2022, what is the difference? They were a good team, and then they get A.J. Brown, everything falls into place. Then you go to the playoffs last year, ironically in the same place. He can't play, and you look like garbage. I don't think that's a coincidence. He is very impactful to this team offensively. Everybody else falls into place. Devontae's a great player, but he's a really great 1A or 2. Not a superstar top 5 AJ type number 1 receiver.
Similar to
And
what
that
they
makes
have in Cincinnati, where you got
yeah,
Chase, who's just off the board, and the other 2 guys
exactly.
are really, really
Yeah.
good, but it makes the whole thing flow. The odd part is, and we don't have enough time, is why the hell didn't it flow last year when you had those 2 guys? Hopefully, things change offensively with
Well, he
those 2
did. He
guys.
had he had 1,400 yards receiving again.
And and you look at the time, like the same time that Devontae Smith entered the league, it's he and Brown are together, are like in a lot of top 10 in the
Yeah.
categories, reception yards and stuff like that. I think the Eagles finally have their version of the greatest show on turf in terms of having Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt together. I think you have these guys locked in for a while now. They can put up some really
Big numbers.
really good numbers. So that when we're looking back in this era, I think we're a few years from now, if everything holds up, if they have the right play caller that sticks around or what have you, and Jalen Hurts continues to be that guy, you think you have a potentially historic type duo that we're going to see here. And yeah, I think it's this
Yeah, we never
extension
talk
is good
about
long term.
Jalen Hurts anymore because he's a constant, but he's under a lot of pressure because
Oh yeah,
Well, let's
they got
see if
a
they add anything to Hurts' side of the ball, or will they continue to focus on Vic Fangio's defense? Round 1 brought Quinyon Mitchell a corner. We'll see what round 2 brings with pick 50 and 53. Tonight, Chris Franklin, NJ.com, covers the Eagles, and he covered it all right here on Birds 365. Thanks, Chris.
all right, thanks guys. Y'all have a good one now.
thanks,
All right,
bud.
good stuff. And check out his coverage of last night's pick. You can follow him over there at Chris Franklin, C. Franklin News, And we'll be back to wrap it all up here. What's going to happen at 50 and 53? It all starts tonight. John and I will talk about that coming up next on Birds 365.